All right, all right, you know what it is. This one here is about Virginia versus the North Carolina call. All right.
Hi guys, welcome to Platinum Cuisines. We're located on the North Mile in Freeport.
Tune in to Unique Mecca Audio.
All right, you know what it is. Unique Mecca Audio, man. Y'all been asked about a Virginia joint, so I'm gonna give you a Virginia joint. This is Virginia versus North Carolina. Remember, we all take L's. Remember that. I even told you a couple where New York took an L, so I ain't picking and choosing. It is what it is. All right. So we got these two co-defendants that in the unit with me. We over in Allenwood. This 1999. I just come out of ADX. I'm gonna tell you a few joints about my man Pork Chop. From Norfolk. You know what I mean? Good kid, good kid. You know, Pork Chop. So you got Pork Chop and his celly Hungry Bear. You know what I mean? They both work in the kitchen. So Hungry Bear get up early morning. He go to the kitchen so he could steal his little apples and bring them back and sell them. And definitely the onions and green peppers. You know what I mean? Definitely the onions and green peppers. These joints here, like I said, he was penitentiary rich. That's how you get penitentiary rich from selling these onions and green peppers. These joints go for 4 stamps a piece. You might steal, 20, 30 of them a day, get 4 stamps a piece. That's $1 a piece. You know what I mean? Because it's 25 cents a joint. So a nigga make a little $30 a day in a joint. That's good. Because $30 a day, equate, to 3 books of stamps. You know what I mean? All right. So now we up in the joint, and you know, Pork Chop and Hungry Bear, they work in the kitchen. They come back. They always wearing their whites. They good dude. Pork Chop, he from Norfolk, so he heard about me and all that. So when I first come out of ADX, he helped to get me adjusted back into you know general population because I was on some paranoid, not wanting to leave the cell because I was in a cell. That's like you got a dog locked in a cell for 5 years. Got a dog locked in a cage for 5 years, and you open that door, he's not gonna want to go out the cage. That's where my mentality was at. They let me out the cage and they put me in a USP with a bunch of people like you see behind me right now. Where I'm used to just being in a cell by myself. You understand? So the whole environment was different. It was like night and day. So Pork Chop used to help me adjust. Now, I go on a little visit because I had a bunch of girls coming to see me. This 99 got locked up 93. It's still 6 years, so not that many dropped off, but a few dropped off. Because y'all know what I'm talking about, homies that been to jail, how the females come in and drop off. But anyway, so I go out, get my little weed, and I come back, and I go chill with Pork Chop and Hungry Bear in the cell. And they had a homie that was from Virginia also, but not from Norfolk. I think he might have been from Petersburg. Y'all correct me if I'm wrong. I'm saying these names because I definitely would like to reconnect with these brothers. I hope that they all out now because they had life sentences. Well, Hungry Bear and Pork Chop had life sentence. You know what I mean? But anyway, so we sitting there and I get my little weed, I come back and we get ready to smoke. Hungry Bear and them, they got their little onions, you know what I mean? They got their little butt naked soup. This called a butt naked soup if y'all don't know. In the prison we call this butt naked soup. They were called 20 cents a piece, right? But you got plenty of these in the locker case locked down the joint work when they don't want to feed you right. But so we got our little food in there and we doing our thing. And you know, they came back, they hooked up a big ass meal. They know I was going on a visit, so they know I was coming back with some weed. And then, Hungry Bear also made some wine. He made like 5 gallons of wine. Back then they made the wine out of orange juice. They sold orange juice right on the commissary, cans of tropical orange juice, and you go there and you was allowed to buy like 48 a week. So you go there, you put 48 or 100 cans in a big ass milk bag that holds like 5 gallons. You know what I mean? And when you put it in a joint that hold 5 gallons, you got the little air hose in it. I got to show y'all that and how to do that so that it could burp. So when you say burp, mean it because it could breathe because you got it in the bag and the bag swell up, boom, boom, boom. You know what I mean? Because you keep it hot. You know what I mean? And that's how it ferment to turn into the wine. So the rotten fruit. So when the joints swell up, you gotta get somebody to hold you down. You see dude up there on the tier. You know what I mean? My man right here behind me. Where he at? If I could figure out how to do it. But this dude right behind me, the one leaning on the tee. You know what I mean? Well, he's looking out for the police. You know what I mean? So dude in the cell, he burping the wine. and dude on the tier, he looking out for the police. The police coming and say, hey, yo, you know what I mean? Then dude know to, fold it up or whatever. Because when you let the air out, it smell like straight wine. You know what I mean? The whole tier stink of wine. And then now the police know where it's at, and they spend all day trying to catch the wine because dudes drink that wine, don't know how to act. Just like I told you about the Detroit and New York car, how dude like to get loose out the mouth from New York, talk crazy to Detroit dude when he hit the ticket because he had that liquid fire, as we call, you know what I mean? Alcohol in the prison. So he got the little liquid fire in him. And, he doing him. So Pork Chop made the big ass, Pork Chop Selly made the big ass 5 gallons of wine. So he broke it down. He's selling his little bottles, you know what I mean? But we was putting them in plastic bags then. Like the little plastic bag you put in the office, you put, you know what I mean? You put a quart in there. You sell a quart for $5 back then, $10. You know what I mean? For like, for 2 of these. If I like having a book so you can see 2 books, get you a quart of wine. And a quart of wine, you sit in front of the TV, watch a good football game or good movie or whatever, get a nice little buzz, especially get a little weed in you. So, that's where we at. We getting a little weed in us, and we waiting, I got the weed in now, but we ain't do nothing yet. So now we up in the joint, and then they had L. You know what I mean? Like I said, L, I don't remember exactly where he was from, maybe Petersburg or something like that, or Charlottesville, from a different, a little small little town, but it wasn't Norfolk or Virginia Beach, And then we had my man George, you know what I mean? George Good brother. We call him Christian George, you know what I mean? Christian George, you know what I mean? He worked in a chapel, and he was on some real religious time, you know what I mean? He was what they call a Bible thumper, you know what I mean? He was really into the Bible, you know what I mean? And he was in it from the heart, you know what I mean? Because I met him, again in another spot after that, and he was still the same way. He went home, came back. I'll tell you about that too. But we got George. George was from Charlotte. You know what I mean? George was in good shape, loved to work out, and loved to play sports. So did L. You know what I mean? And then, Hungry Bear used to play football, but he was a big old dude, of course, because they call him Hungry Bear. He was a big old dude, but he wasn't as good shape as them, but he was in good shape. You know what I mean? But L and George was in great shape. They was always in competition out there on the field. They the ones scoring the touchdowns, making the tackles, they doing their thing. So L didn't really too check for George because George was on that Christian time, and in prison they call that being soft. So y'all listen, you youngins out there, to these stories that I'm telling you. Just because the big bro, is always reading his Bible and he always trying to avoid problems, they took that for him being soft. So L, you know what I mean, used to always pick on George and, do anything to bother him, And the police knew that George didn't want no problems, and George was on that Christian time, so the police put George in a cell by himself. George had a cell by himself, but it was like right next to mine. I'm in 203, George in 204. You know what I mean? Then we got my man Broadway from Brooklyn, you know what I mean, in 205, Broadway and Map. Big shout out to Map Attack and Broadway. You know what I mean? I know they remember this one, But anyway, so L used to always go mess with him. So we in the joint, and while we over there chilling, here goes L talk about, man, give me some more wine. So he drinking some more wine. So we know he getting drunk now. Cause when they getting drunk, when he starts slurring at the mouth and slurring at the speech when he talk. You know what I mean? So we knew he getting too drunk. And, I'm just meeting these dudes. I'm just coming out of ADX. So I'm on my super paranoid time. Just keeping it 100. So, I'm watching them. I got my knife on me. I'm just chilling. And, I'm watching them. But Pork Chop really checked for me. That was the young kid that paid homage to me as the big homie from down there. So Pork Chop really paid homage to me. So me and Pork Chop was more cool. And, Hungry Bear was all right. He just was concerned about, you know what I mean? About getting his onions out the kitchen to make his money and his wine. That was Hungry Bear. But now, L, being that he was, light-skinned, cut up, looked like Chris Brown, but in good shape. You know what I mean? Picture Chris Brown in good shape. And George looked just like Chris Brown in good shape. Both of these two dudes looked alike, George and L. And both of them was the star football players, star baseball player, star basketball player. You understand? And George had big ass hands like this, like mitts, man. His hands was huge. So we sitting there in the joint, and we get good and drunk, and then here goes L. Man, I'm tired of this shit, man. You know what I mean? I'm tired of this shit. We talking about. He talking about nah, this nigga George faking. You know what I mean? So George on the other side got all this stuff out his room. You know what I mean? He cleaning his room, wiping the floor down and all that. Cause George was real clean Christian brother. You know what I mean? You know how they say cleanliness is the next best thing to godliness. So he looked at George over there cleaning up. We over there drinking wine. George don't want no wine. George don't want no weed. We just doing our thing. You understand what I'm saying? So he said, man, you know, I'll be back. He'd leave, he'd go around the corner. You know what I mean? Like, you know, see that tier behind us? They got another one directly across from it. So he walked around the tier to go to the other side, and we could see straight where he at. So we see old George over there, and we know he just like to, you know, harass George because he know George don't want to fight. So he go over there, he go do something to old Christian George. And George, you know, must have told him whatever. So he come back and he like, yeah. Cause you know, you ask George for anything, he a Christian, he gonna feed you. So he must have went and got some cookies, zoom zooms and wham whams or whatever from George, and he came back and he drunk, so he eating the zoom zooms and wham wham, and he talking like, yeah, I went and roughed this off from that nigga. You know what I mean? But you know, that's how he turned that into, and all he did was just ask him whether he asked him aggressive or not. George don't want no problem. George want him to eat. George a Christian. George gives him the zoom zooms and wham whams. You know what I mean? So then he come back over, and Hungry Bear cooking. So while he cooking, we ran out of mackerel. You know what I mean? These are the mackerel. That's how they sell the mackerel in the prison. So they ran out of mackerel, so we needed some mackerel. So, of course, El said, man, I'm going to go get it from that nigga George. You know what I mean? He don't want to call him Christian George. He want to call him nigga George. You know what I mean? Because, you know, he good and drunk now, sauced up. And, you know what I mean? It was like a little rivalry thing because they both was good in the sports, both light-skinned, both thought they were pretty boys, and both liked to work out and both in good shape. They could really pass for brothers. You know what I mean? That's how bad it was. So he said, man, I'm going to go get one from that nigga George. You know what I mean? And so he walk around the tier and he come back. You know what I mean? He go holler at George. So George must have gave it to him. He came back with 2 packs of mackerel. You know what I mean? To throw in. Because, you know, whenever somebody cooking and you want to get in, the mackerel really costs the money. The rice cheap because like Pork Chop and Hungry Bear, both, I think L did too. All 3 of them worked in the kitchen. So as far as getting rice wasn't nothing to make the thing, but it was the mackerel that cost. So whenever somebody say, yo, could, you know, I could get in, they'd be like, give me two butt nakeds. You know what I mean? And 2 mackerels. You know what I mean? And that's what stretched the rice. So he go over there to go get the 2 mackerel from old Christian George. You know what I mean? So he comes back over there to us. He got the 2 mackerels and he throw them on the bed. And he like, yeah, you know, I had to rough that off from that nigga George. You know what I mean? Everything is that nigga George. You know what I mean? But that's just the way he talk. You know what I mean? No disrespect. So he throw the joints down the bed. So everybody's sitting there and we drinking, you know. So now we eating, but, you know, when the food finished, we eating, but he can't really take it. You understand what I'm saying? He ain't really enjoy. His stomach not taking the food because he too drunk. So he eating, slobbing out the mouth, and I guess the food ain't tasting good, but we eating it, we punishing it. You know what I mean? But he's still drinking and drinking because, you know, he was down with bringing the, you know, the ingredients out the kitchen because they all 3 work in the kitchen to make the wine. So they getting good and drunk. But I wasn't even drinking like that. And back that time, I didn't even like that type of wine like that. I just liked the White Lightning later on in my bed. You know what I mean? And they didn't really have, well, I didn't have access to it because I just came out of ADX. But anyway, so he's sitting there and he good and drunk. So then he says, man, you know, I know what I'm going to do. You know what I mean? I said, what? You know what I mean? I said, what you going to do? You know, he said, man, now I'm going to go over there and fuck with that nigga George. You know what I mean? I don't even feel like eating. That nigga soft. You know? He went over there, got zoom and wham wham for him. Dude gave it to him. Then he come back over again. You know what I mean? And, you know, eat that over there with us. And then he go back. And now he gets the, you know, the mackerel and stuff. So now he called it the nigga soft. You know what I mean? Say like, man, you know what I mean? I'm going to go mess with old George. He drunk. He like, I'm bored. You know, like a kid looking for something to do. And that was their thing. They used to go at it with each other. But George always, you know, respectfully, Christianly, you know, back down and say, yo, God loves you, brother. Please relax. You know, like, you know, chill out. So this time I go over to my cell to go get some more weed. And I told you George next door to me in 204. So when I go back over to my cell, here goes George out there now mopping the thing. He said, hey, how you doing, good brother, Unique? You know what I mean? That's how he talked to everybody. He was our age. We all in our 20s at the time, you know what I mean? In our late 20s, early 30s, you know what I mean? pork chop might have been 27, 28. But anyway, we all young, man. We under 32. You know what I mean? We all under 32. You know, so he's sitting there, and he said, "How you doing, good brother Unique?" I said, "Nah, I'm good, George. I'm good." You know what I mean? So then here come, L come walking by. He said, "Yo, come on, let me holler at you." You know what I mean? And George said, "Nah, the floor wet." So L tramples in there, because remember he took everything out the hallway and had it like on that tier behind us, and he took everything out of his cell and was waiting on the floor to dry, because he wiped it out with a rag, because he don't want to use the stink mop that they use in the joint. So he take a rag, he wiped the joint down. So he rolled up in the joint, and he said, walk up in the cell, and George said, "Come on, man. You see the floor is wet. Why you disrespecting me?" And he's like, "Man, come on, nigga. We ain't trying to hear that. Come here, let me holler at you." So now he wanted some stamps so he could come buy some weed from me, because they want to have their own weed to smoke. I went down there, smoked a little 2 joints with them, on the strength, and, they gave me some of their meal, and, and, that was the little barter. But I guess now they want their own thing so they could do their own little Virginia, smoke their weed with just the 3 of them without my black New York ass in the room with him, So he come over there, and now he done got zoom, 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 wham, wham. You know what I mean? He done got mackerel and all that from George. So now he wants some stamps from George. And George kept stamps because he worked in the kitchen and he didn't have no vices, So he said, "Let me holler at you." George said, "Yo, the floor wet." And he trampled in the room. So he said, "Nah," I said, "Let me holler at you." So George said, "Come on, brother, now you violating. Get out my cell, get out my cell." And he's like, "Nah, I ain't getting out of nothing." You know what I mean? Now he feeling himself. He feeling George extra soft because George done gave him the zoom, zoom, wham, wham. You know what I mean? And the mackerel. So George said, "Yo, I'm telling you, man, you disrespected my cell. Please get out my cell. I don't want any problems with you." So L went on to, "I'll knock you out. I'll knock you out." You know what I mean? So George said, "Yes, you would do all of that, but God got me. I ain't worrying about nothing." Come on, big brother. He said, "God." L like, "God." You know what I mean? Good and drunk, like, "God." He said, "Yes, brother. God loves you. Please get out my cell so I can finish doing what I'm doing." You know what I mean? And George didn't approve of us smoking, drinking, and all that wild stuff that we into. So dude is like, "Nah, man, I ain't going nowhere. Make me get out." So George go in the cell to politely guide him out the cell. You know what I mean? Like, "Yo, come on, brother. You drunk. You know what I mean? Don't do this. Whatever you want when you come over here, I give it to you. Come on, big bro." And he's trying to walk him out. So L turns around and hooks off on George. You know what I mean? So when he hooks off on George, boom, George ducks it. And I tell you, he got big ass hands like a Mick, and give him a 3-piece, pop, pop. You know what I mean? So when he hit him, he fell up against the wall. You know what I mean? So when he fell up against the wall, George stopped and said, "Yo, come on, brother, look what you made me do. You all right?" And he's like, he snaps out of it from off the one, said, "Man, get off me, get off me." And now he's trying to fight. So now I come over and I'm like, "Yo, L, come on, man, chill. I don't really know the kid, so I don't know if he's going to try and flip on me for even trying to stop it." So I'm like, "Yo, come on, L, leave it alone." He's like, nah, I'm going to beat this nigga ass. I'm going to beat this nigga ass. And I'm like, to myself, "Yo, I just saw this 3-piece he gave you, my nigga. You know what I mean? You ain't ready for George." You know what I mean? You definitely not ready for George. So he talking about, nah, come on. You know what I mean? So I take him out the cell. We go back over to the other side. So we go back over the other side where Pork Chop, Hungry Bear at. You know what I mean? We over there with old L. And, I'm telling them like, "Yo, George just put a vicious 3-piece on this nigga, knocked him out." So we laughing in there, and me, I'm old instigator, you know what I mean? Because I'm young at the time. I'm with all that old dumb shit. So I'm instigating, say, "Yo, George knocked him out, man, had him up sleeping against the wall." So we laughing, and Pork Chop laughing, and you know what I mean? Because L always talk about how he could whoop George, and George was soft because George gave him whatever he wanted. You know what I mean? So he just kept picking with old Christian George. So we laughing at him so much, he get mad. He said, "Man, that nigga ain't do nothing. That nigga ain't do nothing with his fake Christian ass." And he went into all that. He faked this, faked that. George over there mopping the cell up. So we all in there. And I said, "Come on, man." I give him 2 more joints. I said, "Here, man, you ain't got to get no stand from George. Let's go on and smoke this weed, man." So he goes to smoke the weed. And smoke the weed now, drink some more wine. He get good and saucy again. So we all up in there. We telling old Norfolk stories and all that. You know what I mean? So, we talking about, all the dudes down there with the cars and the flip-flop paint. And, we just having fun vibing off the, the alcohol and the weed. So Then I said to George, I said to L again, I said, yo, L, that nigga got big ass hands, man. Yo, when he hit you, it looked like his whole fist covered up your face. You know what I mean? He said, what? I said, yo, when George hit you with them mitts, it looked like his whole fist covered up the whole side of your face, my nigga. You know what I mean? Because now I'm good and drunk now, too. You know what I mean? Been drinking the sauce with him. And I'm riding. I'm like, yo, that nigga George ain't no joke. You know what I mean? But now I'm calling him a nigga. You know what I mean? So I correct myself. Oh, I said, nah, I mean, the good brother George ain't no joke. And L like, nah, you said it right, that nigga George. You know what I mean? He ain't no damn Christian. I said, man, he a Christian, man. You know what I mean? Because that nigga spared you. He could have killed you up in that cell. So he a Christian. He a good old Christian. So he gets mad, and we in there drinking, and he goes back around the corner. You know what I mean? Well, he slipped out for months. We ain't even know he left. He goes back around that tier that you see behind me. He go back around there and go mess with old Christian George. You know what I mean? This time I'm not there. I'm over here with them smoking, drinking, and we all laughing about, I'm telling them my animated version on how George knocked this dude out. You know what I mean? With a 3-piece, and his whole fist was like a mitt, took up the whole side of his face when he smashed him, So he get mad, and he go around there for round 2. Now, what you think happened in round 2? Make sure you hit that like button, man. If you like this, hit that like button, hit the cash app, do something, man. You know what I mean? But now, he go around there for round 2, and register to, and subscribe at Unique Mecca Audio TV. Let's get the numbers up, Unique Mecca Audio TV. But he goes back around there to go mess with old Christian George, as he say, nigga George. He just couldn't take me riding him about how, dude knocked him out, So he goes back around there, and about 10 minutes go by, and, we wonder where L at. We didn't even know he went over there go messing with George no more. I thought he had enough after he done knocked him out with the mitt, So we're like, where L at? And then in comes George. You know what I mean? Christian George come in and say, good afternoon, brothers. Good evening, brothers. Y'all all right? Could you please come get your friend out my cell? And we like, what? He over there messing with you again? He said, yeah, man, come get him out my cell. So, we like, yo, George, chill out, man. You know what I mean? And George like, yo, I'm telling you, please get him out my cell. So he's pleading with us now. Because the nigga in the cell, he drunk. He don't want to leave George's cell. You know what I mean? So now, George begged us to get him out the cell. Of course, we didn't do it. We good drunk. We ain't trying to go over there and get into that. That's their regular thing anyway. Normally they do, but after a good football game, they come in and argue over who had the most stats. Because both of them was phenomenal in sports. Should have been in college. But anyway, so George go back around the corner. And then now, here come 2 Ohio dudes come run up in the cell and say, yo, y'all got to come get L. Y'all got to come get L. Him and George in the cell fighting. You know what I mean? So now we all jump up, put the wine down, and we shoot over there to go see what happened. When we run over there to go see what happened, we run up in the cell and we like, yo, what's up? So soon we go in there, old George done knocked out L, picked him up with his good Christian ass. You know what I mean? Yeah, with his good Christian ass. He knocked the boy out and picked him up and put him in his bed. And he in there laying down on his stomach, pissy drunk, knocked out. You understand what I'm saying? George was no joke, man. But that's how dudes knew George could fight. George done knocked him out of the cell, so now we had to take him and bring him back over to the other side. You know what I mean? Because he lived over there by Pork Chop on the Virginia side of the tier. Like that side that we at right there, that was like the New York and, East Coast side. We had the New York car, the Spanish cars, you know what I mean? Like the Dominican, the Puerto Ricans, all of us was there and the TV was in front over there in front of our cell. And then they had like the, Dirty South TV that was closer to their cell. But anyway, so we had to pick old George up and take him back over there to the thing. So George over there, George was in himself knocked out, man. George, you know what I mean? Come on. I mean, not George. I mean, L. L was in the cell knocked out, man. George done knocked L out. You know what I mean? Done rocked him up in there, But, we all take a loss. You know what I mean? So you already know, L, nothing taken away from you. Because like I said, you was that nigga, but George was that nigga, So now, we take him back over there. You know, so now they lay him down in Hungry Bear bed, cause Hungry Bear on the bottom, pork chop on the top. So he good and drunk, so we don't want the police know what's going on. So we can't be trying to move him around the tier too much, cause he drunk, he groggy, and George done laid the mitts on him. So we sitting up in the joint, right? So now while we're in the joint, everybody's coming over there, calling me out the cell, cause they know I'm no instigator. You know, I'm the clown. So they all calling me out of there, and they telling me how this fight went down. They said, yo, you should have seen it. He said, George begged this dude. He said he begged him not to let him knock him out. You know what I mean? And even told him, he said, yo, the good Lord gonna make me knock you out. This is what Christian George told him. The good Lord gonna make me knock you out. I'm not trying to do it. I'm trying to stay on the righteous path, so please get out my cell. And this is how George talked to the dude. He got his hands together saying, please get out my cell. He begging him. And he like, nah, I ain't trying to hear that, nigga. And George was every nigga in the book, you know what I mean? And George wasn't having it. So they telling me how, you know, L threw a punch and he like kind of like dipped it and bang, bang, turned it over on him and dropped him. Now he leaped up on the wall, you know what I mean? Then they went at it again. And now when he drops him, he on the floor. So he said, George said, man, look what you made me do, man. And I told you I'm wiping this floor. Luckily, the floor was clean. He picks him up and puts him in the bed. No disrespect, L, you took the loss. So, you know, that's how that one went, man. But, you know, then later on, I'm going to give you this for a little cap at the end, you know. Then later on, that was in like in 2000, 99, 2000. Then in 2009, by 2008, 2009, either right before the cop got killed in Atwater or right after he got killed. You know what I mean? Old George come over there to Atwater, California. And he's still on his Christian time. You understand? And, you know, he from North Carolina. They got the Dirty South car that they running with now with ATL and all that. Cause we talking about like 8-9 years later. So now they got what they call the Dirty South car. You know what I mean? Because that was the Virginia car over there, and then you had the North Carolina. On the East Coast, it's like Virginia car, North Carolina car, just like New York, just like on the East Coast, the New York car. So, and then it's the Boston car, the DC car, the Connecticut car, because we on our coast. But when we go out west, then we join collision. So when they join collision, it's District of Maryland, DC, and Virginia. So they call it like the DMV. You understand what I'm saying? Is what they call that little area. Then you got the Dirty South. That's the pocket of like North Carolina, Atlanta, Tennessee, stuff like that. Is considered as, the Dirty South. So now George is considered Dirty South. But George is a Christian. He's been a Christian since I known him. I've known George since 1999, and George was a Christian. Good old Christian. So, big shout out to George. George, if you see this, reach out to me, man. Good brother. But George comes out there to California. You know what I mean? He gets out there to Atwater, California. And when he gets there, same thing happened, but now it's his car. They trying to tell him like he got to roll with their car. In so many words, letting them know like, yo, we out west, so, you know what I mean? We all stick together. You from Carolina, I'm from Carolina, so this is how we got to do it. So, George is like, look, man, I roll with the Lord. You know what I mean? George still with that. George said, man, I roll with the Lord, man. I don't roll with no cars. I don't get involved with nobody. You know what I mean? I talk to Christians from anywhere in the world because, God is our Savior. And this is how George is talking. So, dude said something old slick to him. You know what I mean? Like, nah, nigga, tried to get aggressive. And George is like, yo, big brother, I'm respectfully telling you, he loved putting his hands together. He said, I'm respectfully telling you, I don't want any problems, but I'm not joining no Dirty South car, no North Carolina car. I'm Christian George, you know what I mean? And I roll with the Christians because we roll with the Lord and the Lord protects us. This is George. So, dude came back now and he talking. He's like, nah, I'm gonna have to push up on that nigga to show that nigga what time it is. You know what I mean? So now I got to pull the dude aside and refresh his memory. I said, big bro, you know what I mean? Just because that brother is talking that good old Lord stuff, you know what I mean? Don't think that he's not a man. You know what I mean? I said, I seen him putting his work. You know what I mean? So if you respect my word, you know what I mean? You'll save yourself a lot of heartache by leaving that one alone, because George ain't going for it. And he wasn't a loud dude. Like I said, he was in good shape, but he knew how to fight. And he told him straight up, man, I'm not with it. And blacks, like I said, we always give each other a fair one. You know what I mean? If you're something you don't like, you go in the cell, you get a fair one. I'm gonna tell you about a couple of the joints I had in the cell. But anyway, so I had to tell the dude, man, leave George alone, man. I said, look at the size of his hands. George still played football and all that, and basketball. I said, you see the boy move around out there athletic. You see he just work out in the little corner by himself. The boy in good shape, man. You're smoking wine. You know what I mean? I mean, you're smoking weed. You're drinking wine. You understand what I'm saying? And you up all night eating zoom, zooms, and wham, wham. And that man go to bed every night at 8, 9 o'clock. You know what I mean? George in there sleep. And, you know, me, I don't try to even get no rest until the door is closed at the end of the night. But George would go in there, and I used to go in there and talk to him and say, George, come on, man, it's 8 o'clock. The doors are still open. What you doing under the covers? He's like, man, the good Lord got me, Unique. The good Lord got me. He was that serious on his Christianity, man. I respect him. Big shout out to George, man, out of Charlotte. He said, man, Lord got me. Because Lord knows I'm not laying down in no goddamn bed with men all on the tier behind me, hanging out and walking like that, and I'm under the goddamn covers wrapped in. If somebody come in and do something, I got to kick the covers off to fight to get on, and then got my socks on and no socks. Nah, I'm not having this. I said, George, you're a better man than me. He said, no, God is a better man than us. You know what I mean? So I said, well, George, I talked to the homie, man. He said that, you know, he cool with you, you know, being with the Christian car and not with the North Carolina car. George said, Unique, I don't really care what he cool with. You understand what I'm saying? Because I'm not joining no group. I'm not joining no gang because I'm with the Lord. You know what I mean? But, you know, this is a story about old George, man. So, you know, that's how the good guys make it all the way out. So don't say I didn't tell you. I've been here all day, man. You know, just wanted to give y'all a little vibe. Cop the book of Roaring Harlem at roaringharlem.com. The audio book is there too, man. Cop the book of Roaring Harlem at roaringharlem.com. So, you know, it is what it is. Register Unique Mecca Audio at YouTube. And, you know, subscribe over there and go to Unique Mecca Audio to my DM and tell me whatever you want to tell me that you think I need to change or whatever. We're going to keep this strictly gangster so that we do what we got to do. You know what I mean? But, you know, we in the house and we doing what we doing now. And everybody's, you know, it's crazy. But, you know, y'all be good now.
Hi guys, welcome to Platinum Cuisines. We're located in Freeport on the Nordica Mile. Just wanted to introduce my partner, Amy.
Hi guys, how are you? And this is my sister-in-law, Diana, another partner. I just ask that you come support our minority-owned business. We serve Asian fusion, Caribbean cuisine, and we have a beautiful restaurant located on the Nautical Mile in Freeport, New York. And we're asking that you come check us out and also make sure to tune in to Mecca Audio TV.
Cheers, cheers, toast the crime, toast the crime, the crime, the crime, the crime.
Fresh out the can of 26, he back on the strip, getting back in the mix. What he mentions a gift. You stand up 10 toes down, and I suggest you pay attention to this. Take a little gully posse and put it in Harlem. He cut from the bottom, came up from the bottom. Drop the book, you should go and get it. The Instagram page and the YouTube, you could go and visit. Then you could consider yourself LinkedIn. Sit front row and get Jews from a kingpin. How he went through it, so you ain't gotta go do it. To not pay attention would be stupid. Talking about a man that probably put your grandfather on. Probably the reason that him and your grams got along. A man that generated millions on the block, did his time, never squilling to the cops, Mecca Audio. Get it live like 2 G's in the 90s. Drop top beamer so shiny. I let shorty go, she was whining. Treat her like my past, she behind me. Spend a couple bands on the Dapper Dan. You be back again, getting green like a Packers fan. No cap, it's a roaring uptown. They be horn uptown, Dominican bust downs. Now we on the positive, you we got a lot to give. Now he trying to stop the kids from being inoperative. So take heed, homie, lend a ear. He started in uptown, he gon' finish dead. But now it ain't about selling drugs, buying cars. It's about buying property to make the community ours. So we can give back to the youth them, cause they the truth them. And bless up to all the rudiments.